Yeah.
They were on it. When
they give you a hard time, but they certainly appreciate it all. Especially, last time I think we talked on the phone 3 years ago was reaching out to the team for help, and we appreciate being there.
That's right. There was an incident with your relative missing. I had forgotten about that, and that's like one of the ones that never makes the files. Whenever it's somebody connected with a team member, I don't really make a file on it. I kind of, skip that one.
I was out of town, and I called you, and it was my grandfather, and he was suffering from dementia and had gone missing for a good portion of the day. And I called you, and you were waiting on standby all day to hear anything. And I can't remember the details, but I think my phone died or something. And then by the time I got charged up the next morning, I called you, and you're like, "Yeah, I was ready all day, all night, into the call." But they found him. It was a quick resolution.
Yeah, I remember that. Who were your scouts and everything? Who, throughout your different careers, who were your mentors?
Don't let it get to your head, but I typically mention you when I talk about mentors. Not necessarily for good things. No.
That makes me proud and sad, but go on.
Come on, Steve, you can do better.
Yeah. Not on this radio station. No.
I mean, there was a lot of, I have professional mentors from work. I had a lot of mentors in scouting. Like, I remember, Mr. Casey, Mr. Gorley from Troop 304 in Glenside. They were always Scoutmaster 2 times, Mr. Stahelski. Just kind of helping mold us at those formative years. But I feel like your advice that you would give, particularly when I was working with you, that one internship, I feel like I got a lot of advice there that I wouldn't typically get from people, and a lot of those things stuck for a long time. I won't repeat them here, but they were all pretty good.
Oh yeah. That was the job of horror that none shall ever repeat. Just bringing it back to when you said, I was like, what's he talking about? Oh, that, yes, yeah. That was like some crash course in dealing with worst case scenarios.
Yep.
It was bad. I kind of blocked that out too. But yeah, you make the best of a bad situation. What do you remember as the best part of doing the things? I guess maybe mostly SAR, because that was a bigger chunk, kind of.
So like I said, it was in 1996 to 1998 through about 2008, I think it was. I was involved in search and rescue at different levels of involvement, and I just either by coincidence or just terrible luck, was never on any live finds until, I want to say, like the summer of 2006. And a guy, it was in Shenandoah Mountain, and a guy, an older gentleman, his wife dropped him off. She knew he had dementia, but she dropped him off to go fishing by himself anyway. And we found him and carried him back, and she was, I listened to one of your callers, or one of your previous podcasts about this, that feeling when you walk in with the guy and the family's there crying and all happy. And the team, some of these guys, have just, whether it be luck or experience or whatever, like, had been on many finds before. And they're just kind of standing there and drinking their water because we just hauled this guy like 3 miles out of the woods. And I'm bawling like a little girl. And you're like, what's the deal? I'm like, 10 years. I've never been on a live find in 10 years. Like, this is awesome. Everyone's looking at me like, I thought you were good at this.
Yeah, there's, it's funny because they have a different system down there. And one of the things is because of hikers and stuff, and the alert system down there is that they come after them quicker. And I don't know if people are just happier and don't want to harm themselves down there, but we get called in later for many reasons. And that just adds to having that non-live fine outcome. And live finds are a completely different feeling, and I don't know. I found that sometimes I've tempered happiness with that as I've gotten older, because I wonder what the person is going to do with this chance. Because sometimes I feel like we didn't save somebody so much as we interrupted them, you know? And I just hope they make the best use of the chance, and I hope they see it is a different day and it's got different potential for them, you know?
Yep. That reminds me of the story of the guy at the boathouse. The search we did out there started on 2002, maybe? Do you recall? There was a guy at the boathouse. His car was next to the boathouse, and we were searching for a few days.
Yeah, Bridgeport.
Yep, and the dogs hit that Thursday night, and someone put a piece of flagging tape on the tree next to the river.
Yeah.
3 days later, it turns out he was 50 feet from command.
He was right there where the dogs hit, and he was just under the water.
But I remember that day, coming back. I mean, that night coming home, that was the first real gruesome scene I'd seen. That wasn't even that gruesome. And trying to process that. And the next day coming into work, and you seemed awfully chipper. And you said, it put things in perspective.
Well, I remember having a discussion with you about, perspective and problems and what are real problems, and how that gentleman has no problems anymore. And I don't think you want to trade with him, and just keeping our perspective. And, it does give you perspective. When you were doing it up here and down there, different environments, but did you see any trends in it?
Well, explain that. What do you mean?
Well, did you see any ongoing things like down there? You said they had more live finds. Up here it was more deceased. Did you see higher membership, like a trend down there would be that you were driving further sometimes, just because of demographics, driving further, more recalls.
There were definitely some different things. For starters, the Appalachian Search and Rescue Council, each team kind of had their specialty. You would have an equine team, like a water team, and a urban team. Don't quote me on those, because I don't know if that's particularly accurate. But Shenandoah Mountain Rescue Group, my team, was more search management. So we got called out to a lot of them that, say, an equine team might not be called to. Whereas GP SAR, you were kind of like a one-size-fits-all shot. You had, within the team, you had people that specialized in all these different areas. So GP SAR could kind of go on their own to any search and have the capability to handle this, whatever kind of terrain or situation it was you had to deal with. SMERG was more search management. So a lot of times you would kind of a lot of people would get field promoted to incident staff or something, and be spending more time, working with maps or coordinating emerging volunteers than ground pounding, so to speak. As far as the kind of demographic we were dealing with, because we were a management team, I think we often got sent out further than maybe some of the others. Maybe the furthest. We did some in West Virginia, which from Arlington is not particularly close. Southwestern Virginia, which is a bit of a hike. But a lot of times there were a lot of the I don't want to say false alarms, but a lot of the turnarounds where the typical scenario could be, so-and-so comes home from work at 5 o'clock, and dad who's got some memory issues isn't there when you get home. So you drive around, you search his no response. He's not there. Then you call the police. Then by the time the police get involved and it trickles down the line to us, it always seemed like it was 11 o'clock when you were driving out the door. Just whatever that time period took from, hey, Dad's not here, I got home from work, to Steve calling dispatch and say, I'm going out the door. It was like a 6-hour period, and then it would be in the middle of the night when you're turning around. I think because of that automated setup.
Yeah, I think you need a human being in there to just mitigate it and say, I think it's worth it to add a couple minutes on the front end of that rather than sending you out and having you have to come back after 4 hours, you know.
Well, however, you know, it is a great, I think one of the common problems teams have is not getting called soon enough. So it's the flip side of that, you know. I've already talked with some of the other callers about how time is the enemy. And in our case, since we were the total flip side of that, time wasn't the enemy. It was sort of member exhaustion.
Right.
Quite a bit of the problem. So.
Yeah, I think you just need somebody. You need somebody with experience to pull the pin. Somebody should be getting the automated message, and they should be deciding to pull the pin based on experience and demographics and everything else. Because if not, and you keep doing that, then you're going to have somebody like yourself who doesn't do it anymore. And when they're needed, they may not be there because maybe time wore them out. And that's just my fear. So we're about to wrap up. But what would you like to? You want to say anything to your old community, because this is where the radio station is, and what would you like to see your children doing in volunteerism? Where would you like to see them involved?
I just hope that I can lead an example, find something that I can do, and lead by example for them, for them to see what kind of enjoyment you can get out of volunteerism, whether it be volunteering at school or the fire department or a search team, or, you know, just doing something to be giving back keeps you so much more connected. I really hope that I can get back into the swing and be that example for them. You know, and as far as missing Philly, my wife and I have bounced around quite a bit in the last few years, and I'm still hoping one of these days, the job will land us back in Philly and we'll be able to get involved again.
When's the last time you had a good cheesesteak?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. Too long.
Well, you don't even have soft pretzels, do you?
No.
It's like prison, No, there's no good cheesesteaks once you get like 30 miles out. They start to go down immediately. Well, thank you, Steve, and we'll be back next week. Check us out on the web, Unsung at unsung.us. Stay safe, stay smart, stay sane.